Listen, I don't want to do that thing where I get back on the hype train for a game, and certainly not a game that is mired in so much controversy and trouble, but the latest Assassin's Creed Shadows gameplay honestly looks really good. And I get it, I know, we have been here before. So many games, the gameplay looks so promising, and then it ends up being very disappointing. I had that experience with Star Wars Outlaws. But when it comes to Assassin's Creed games, I've actually really enjoyed pretty much every one that I've played, with, some more than others. Assassin's Creed Origins is my favorite at the moment. And the latest gameplay footage of Yasuke and Naoe really looks promising, and for a variety of reasons. These are short clips. This isn't like a montage hype trailer. It's just really basic interactions with enemies that I think looks very good. Not to mention, during this delay, while we've been sort of waiting for the game to come out, we learned they're developing a co-op mode for AC Shadows. And what better Assassin's Creed game to bring co-op to than one with two very different protagonists? We also know from the reports that the co-op mode may end up being post-launch content, but I have been dying for an open-world action-adventure game with really good co-op to play with my wife. If you know of any, leave a comment below, because it looks like this might be one of the first ones I get to do that in. So let's get into the footage and look at why I have hope for this game again, and why this really makes me feel that AC Shadows will not be what a lot of people were worried about. And if you like this kind of content, make sure you hit like and subscribe, and even check out the live show that followed this video. So up first, let's just look at all the Yasuke footage. The obvious thought here would be that it would feel a lot like other games, right? Just another game where you play as a samurai. And the first thing that I notice is the weighty nature of his gameplay. And some may not like that, which is fine. We will look at Naoe next. But when it comes to the weight behind his attacks, he has various ways of signaling that. First is this sort of stomp that he uses to add to his swing's weight. And just before that, he re-establishes his stance. So it looks like there will be a measured nature to this combat as well. Because when he tries to swing immediately after losing his balance, his swing is easily deflected by the enemy. So, like the button mashing or the panic swinging will probably not be rewarded here. Another thing he does in the first encounter from the Jor Raptor footage, so thanks Jor, he put all the footage into one video. The other thing he gets is this sort of parry or perfect block just before like a blue signaled attack comes in. This leads to the enemy flashing yellow, which I assume indicates they're open for execution or some type of a devastating attack. Yasuke completely resets his stance and then goes into a very stylized execution with black and white and bright red for the blood. This choice with stylization is one that I really like. It gives it a touch of like old black and white samurai movies while also adding a nice violent punch to the end of a fight. This is a far better choice versus playing hip-hop music over Yasuke's combat, so please Ubisoft, let's just not do that again. Then we move on to footage of what they're saying is chaining posture attacks. Now you'll notice the enemy now has a posture bar, and again, Yasuke's unconventional style and the use of his weight comes into play. He kicks at the enemy, which he misses, but then he follows up with a swing that is just devastating. And I really like the visual representation of the armor and the helmet breaking off. It really emphasizes just how much power and just how much punch Yasuke's putting behind these swings. Then they show a sheathed posture attack. Now this feels like a charged up move that you would use to close space and take advantage of the enemy returning to a neutral stance. Now if you re-watch this, he uses this ability when the enemy has reset his own stance and then he resheathes his sword. I really hope this is the type of telegraphing that you have to be aware of to land these big attacks. It will make it all the more satisfying. It's one thing to wail on an enemy and destroy their health bar or their posture bar with brute force, but it's completely different when you're combining power with the finesse of monitoring enemy moves and stances. Then they show off what is a Naginata Crescent Strike, and this might be my favorite for two reasons. It just furthers the strength and the weight behind Yasuke's attacks, but it is great for crowd control as well. He uses the first enemy for a perfect block, and then he launches into this huge attack that hits multiple targets, and it just looks really satisfying. So my overall thoughts on Yasuke's combat is that I may end up maining him throughout the game as much as possible. It's heavy, it's syncopated, measured, thoughtful, but also it's just devastatingly brutal at the same time. The unusual combination of patient samurai finesse with high-powered swings, kicks, and stomps, it looks like such a great cocktail of combat. So, all right, what about Naoe's combat? For those of you who might think that Yasuke is just a bit too much of a slow-moving brute. The first thing to notice about Naoe is that she's quick, agile, and a lot more acrobatic. I would even go so far as to say she has a softer approach to everything. She's not wearing big bulky armor. She naturally moves into rolls, dodges, and various attacks, and it's very seamless. And the first bit of footage is showing off the deflect mechanic. And the thing that stands out is in this footage is just how quickly she can move from one choice to the next. Yasuke feels more broken apart, so each decision and choice is a bit more spread out. Naoe, on the other hand, rolls back and is almost instantly able to go into a deflection and then ends up behind the enemy. Then they show katana combat on ice, and I know it might sound weird, but my favorite part about this clip is the honest way they have her step onto the ice. It's the subtle sort of stutter step where she has to even move her arm to rebalance herself. It really makes it to where you can almost feel that moment that we've all had where you almost slip on a slick surface. But then, just like the previous clip, she has no problem moving right into a perfect block. This opens the enemy to a brutal and fast flurry of attacks that is punctuated by a kick to finish him off. I love how Yasuke is this intersection of patience and devastating heavy attacks, and Naoe is more like a fluid flurry of sword slices and kung fu. They really built two distinct characters for this game. Then we get to see the Kusurigama combat, which is basically the chain blades. And this section again accentuates just how fast and fluid Naoe is. She closes space with a jump, rolls away, rolls again, then 2 blocks in a row, and finish off the enemy with a clothesline. It just looks so stylized and snappy and fun. And if you haven't seen enough slicing and dicing, they then show off the Tanto and Hidden Blade combat. And this fight is basically rock meets scissors, but the scissors are faster and just eviscerate the competition. I like this sort of, she's going against a bigger, bulkier fight, and we're seeing the opposite end of the spectrum, like Yasuke's so big, and now she's smaller and going against a big enemy. I think it's a great showcase. And then we get to my favorite part, and this will make it, I think, tough for me to choose between the two characters. The enemy flurry attack clip shows Naoe perfect blocking 3 attacks in short succession. And this is the stuff that I love. I love moment-to-moment choices that reward you, especially when you're blocking things very quickly. It reminds me a little bit of Sekiro. She does not capitalize on the flashing yellow status of the enemy because they're wanting to show off one more thing, which is the enemy unstoppable attack next. And this she has to roll out of the way of. I think that's very typical, but she's so fast, she's able to kind of jump right back in. She finishes off the fight with a nice perfect block, this sort of stylistic jump over the enemy, right into a nasty execution. Needless to say, I am a big fan of this combat and what we're seeing, and I think there are some very easy conclusions to draw here. After watching and re-watching this footage to make this video, I have to say, it really proves to me that Assassin's Creed Shadows will not be a handful of things. First, this will not be just another Assassin's Creed game. I've played somewhere between 7 to 10 of the Assassin's Creed games, and some are more enjoyable than others, but this game looks like it will be a standout, at least for me. Long gone are the days of the basic fisticuffs fights where you have to interweave a parry here and there. This is a fully fleshed out combat system with 2 completely different and distinct characters. And the truth is, each of these characters could have their own game, and the combat would likely have felt just as complete. This should really benefit the game in 2 ways. First, the co-op gameplay, as each person's going to be able to approach the missions and the fights in a very different way with specific strengths and weaknesses. It should really make the co-op gameplay feel great. And secondly, it can really help with replayability. You could play through once, primarily as Yasuke, and then switch. Or if things start feeling a bit rote and rehearsed halfway through the game because you're just playing with one of the characters, well, switch to the other. The other thing this footage proves to me about what Assassin's Creed Shadows will not be, it will not be too close to Ghost of Tsushima. I have a stupid amount of hours in Ghost, and my main concern was that this game was going to be too close or too similar. I honestly think the choice to have a juxtaposed samurai was a very good one. It gives good context and foundation for a samurai with the patience and the prudence, but also having very weighty devastation behind every move. And the last thing this game is clearly not going to be, it's not just going to be another samurai or Ronin style game. These combat clips look fresh, they look distinct, and when they get combined for co-op gameplay or they lead to very different playthroughs of the game, I think those of us that are looking forward to this game will be in for a great experience. So, as the thumbnail says, there is hope. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment below or follow over to the live stream. It'll be linked below. It'll also be in a card here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and discussion. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please remember to hit like, share, and subscribe.